In 1929, the world learned a very expensive lesson. One day, Wall Street was unstoppable. The next, it was rubble. Fortunes vanished overnight. Banks locked their doors. Millions lost everything. Most people think of this as a one-time disaster. A tragic chapter closed a century ago. We look at those black and white photos of men in suits standing in bread lines and think, that was the past. That can't happen to us. But what if it never really ended? What if the same forces that caused the Great Depression are quietly shaping your world right now? If you've ever wondered why prices keep rising, why housing feels unreachable, or why debt keeps growing faster than wages, you are not alone. What is happening around you isn't random. It is the echo of a system built on risk, greed, and illusion. I'm not here to scare you. I'm not here to spread doom and gloom, but we need to have an honest conversation. Because while history doesn't repeat itself exactly, as Mark Twain said, it often rhymes. And right now, the rhythm of the economy sounds a lot like 1929. Let's go back to that era for a moment. They called it the Roaring Twenties for a reason. It was a party. Stocks were soaring. Everyday people, teachers, farmers, mechanics, were buying shares, but they weren't buying with cash. They were buying on margin, borrowing money to gamble in a market that only seemed to go up. Newspapers called it the new era of wealth. Sound familiar? Everyone believed the old rules didn't apply anymore. They said technology had changed the game. They said credit was cheap and growth was endless. And behind the scenes, the same pattern was forming. Debt stacking on top of debt, with confidence as the only glue holding it all together. Now, look at today. Look at 22/5. Instead of ticker tape machines, we have trading apps on our phones. Instead of telegrams, we have crypto charts and algorithmic trading. But the psychology hasn't changed one bit. It is still driven by FOMO, fear of missing out. It is still driven by the belief that this time is different. When your neighbor tells you how much they made on a meme stock, or when you see people getting rich overnight on speculative assets, that is the same energy as 1929. When prices rise, people think they are smart. When prices fall, they realize they were just lucky. But the real issue isn't the stock market. That's just the scoreboard. The real issue is the debt. In 1929, household debt had soared to unprecedented levels. People were buying cars, radios, and homes they couldn't afford, believing wages would rise forever. They were spending tomorrow's money to live today. Does that ring a bell? Today, global debt is over 300% of the total world GDP. We are drowning in it, from credit cards to buy now, pay later schemes. The entire modern economy is built on the assumption that we can pay it back later. But what happens if later comes with a recession? What happens if incomes stop growing? In the 1920s, banks sold risky loans disguised as opportunities. Today, the instruments are more complex, but the game is the same. The system thrives on consumption, and consumption depends on confidence. When people believe the system is safe, they borrow and spend. When they doubt it, everything freezes. That is what economists fear most. Not the crash itself, but the moment trust disappears. And then there is the inequality before the crash of '29. The wealth gap was historic. A small group of elites controlled most of the nation's wealth, while the working class survived on credit and hope. When the bubble burst, the average person had nothing to fall back on. Look around now. Corporate profits are breaking records, yet wages for the average worker are barely keeping up with inflation. The middle class is being squeezed. The top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. We are seeing a K-shaped reality where those who own assets get richer, and those who work for a living get left behind. This isn't just an economic problem, it's a social one. In the 1930s, this kind of inequality led to anger, populism, and political extremism. People felt the system was rigged, so they looked for anyone who promised to flip the table. We are seeing those same cracks in society today. But there is one major difference between then and now, and this is the part that is truly critical. In 1929, when the crash happened, the government initially did nothing. They let the banks fail. They let the market hit rock bottom. That caused the Great Depression, but it also cleared out the bad debt. Today, we have taken a different path. Central banks and governments have decided that they cannot allow a crash, so Every time there is a wobble, they print money. They lower interest rates. They inject liquidity. It feels like a safety net. It feels good in the short term. But think about it like this. If you have a broken leg and you just keep taking strong painkillers to keep walking, you aren't healing the leg. You are just masking the injury. Eventually, the painkillers stop working, and the damage is much worse. The global economy is currently addicted to these painkillers, addicted to cheap money and government intervention. We have kicked the can down the road for years, but you can't kick the can forever. Eventually, you run out of road. So, where does this leave us? I'm not telling you this to make you panic. Panicking never helps. I'm telling you this because awareness is your best defense. The people who got hurt the most in 1929 were the ones who believed the hype, the ones who thought prosperity was permanent, the ones who didn't have a plan B. The danger isn't necessarily a sudden collapse like in the movies. It might be a slow grind where your money buys less every year, where savings erode, and where the standard of living quietly slips away. We need to stop looking at the economy through the lens of optimism or pessimism and start looking at it through the lens of reality. If debt grows faster than income, repayment becomes impossible. If growth depends entirely on credit, stability is an illusion. So, ask yourself, if the music stopped today, where would you be standing? Are you diversified? Are you carrying too much debt? Are you relying on a system that assumes nothing will ever go wrong? The ghost of 1929 isn't in the history books. It's in every decision to chase profit without foundation. It's in every policy that chooses short-term comfort over long-term health. History shows us that systems fail, not when markets fall, but when people forget why they rose in the first place. We have better technology now. We have faster computers. We have more data, but we still have the same human brains, prone to the same greed and the same denial. Let's not be the generation that repeats the mistake of the past simply because we thought we were smarter than them. Take a hard look at your finances. Take a hard look at the world. And remember, stability built on debt is just borrowed time. Thank you for listening. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and most importantly, stay prepared.